very big thank you for body extract. I've been on the formula for nearly a month now, and the improvement in the circulation of my leg has been simply amazing.
Reed was facing a tough choice.
I was facing surgery due to the severity of the 100% blocked artery in both my legs. And my decision, waiting for surgery, to say no and try heart and body extract instead, has been thankfully the right decision.
I have something I'd like to share with you. LisaKCandles.com is an all-natural soybean candle alternative. Before I found Lisa K Candles, I had lingering soot and allergens in my home. Not today. My Lisa K Candles are clearly a difference to see and breathe. And you know, that's a good peace of mind. LisaKCandles.com is an all-natural soybean candle, handmade from their popular line of fragrances. And guys, these candles make a perfect gift. Order an all-natural soy candle from LisaKCandles.com. I'm glad I did, and I know you will be too. Visit LisaKCandles.com. That's Lisa, the letter K, Candles.com. Or call 731-441-3293. That's 731-441-3293.
America, politicians are about to vote on the creation of a police state and a permanent state of war everywhere on earth, including the homeland, mein Führer. The U.S. Senate will be voting on a bill that will give this president and every future president the power to order the military to pick up and imprison, without charge or trial, civilians anywhere in the world, including America.
Illuminati, you'll never take control. Your new world order will lead to none at all.
Let's just go over that again because it may seem insane or unhinged at first. The American president wants the power to arrest and detain anyone, anywhere, indefinitely, without charge or trial, forever. Yes, it still sounds insane.
Welcome everybody again to the Story Behind the Story. I am your guest host, Alex Studer. Today is Tuesday, February 19th, 2013, and I am coming to you from a rusted out ice cream truck somewhere under a bridge in the beautiful city of San Francisco, California. My, oh my, folks, what a past few days it has been. I'm sure all of you have been watching the news of these rocks dropping out of the sky on Russia and exploding in the atmosphere with the force of some 30 Hiroshima-type atomic bombs, causing over 900 injuries and sending everyone scrambling for grabbing, little fragments of a rock, which is on the market for over $2,000 a gram, if you can find any. We also had rocks falling out of the sky over Cuba, over Florida, and we had something happen over the skies of San Francisco this weekend, but I'm not entirely convinced it was a rock falling out of the sky like all the rest. It looked different. It didn't have any sound associated with it, nor did it leave any kind of smoke plume. It just sort of, it was this little blue thing that just kind of cruised across the sky for a minute. All of those stories are linked again at my website, is labvirus.com, and I've been busy writing some commentary and posting a couple things over the weekend, one of which I'm going to get to in a minute. there's a couple things I received in the email over the weekend, and I'm just going to read one of them to you because I think it's worthy of note. Don't really know how serious of a venture this is, but it appears that FEMA is up to some nonsense, sending out an email for a mass hiring spree with a date of March 1st. And True sent this along with some commentary that I'm sure he wants me to discuss. So I'm going to go ahead and read that commentary before the actual emailed letter. This post was sent to me from a patriot who used to be in quote-unquote special forces. He's deeply concerned about this, so am I. Here's why. Again, the timing of Slickberry, y'all call him Obama, go for it, I call him Slickberry, signing the United Nations Small Arms Treaty fits very neatly in the March 21 window of some sort of a massive false flag event here. And I believe that when he says here, he means the United States in general. And I resonate with this stuff. My little comment is that, 322, the numbers found in the Skull and Bones logo, could very well be portraying a relationship to the actual month and date of March 22nd. There's some satanic significance to these dates, and Truott's about to explain to you why in this little commentary here. So he continues, March 20th is the eve of Ostara. March 21st, 2013 is the quote-unquote high black mass of the spring equinox, otherwise known as Ostara. Wicca and Satanists worship the goddess of the earth, otherwise known as Gaia, on this day. The celebration, the feast day, is held on March 20th, with actual blood sacrifice ritual occurring on the 21st. In the occult mindset, this ritual celebrates the impregnation of Mother Earth, so she may bring forth her crops in the spring. This vernal equinox is a spring fertility rite to the Satanist. The deepest meaning is a rebirthing ceremony. What is it that this event is to birth? And his comment is Antichrist, or war, of course. A blood sacrifice is required as the sacrificial blood of the animal is poured into the ground to spite God because of the Cain and Abel dispute. Remember the scripture? And he quotes from the book of Genesis, chapter 4, verses 9 through 11. And the Lord saith unto Cain, Where is Abel thy brother? And he said, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? And he said, What hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground. And now art thou cursed from the earth, which hath opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand. To spite God on this day, black magic Satanists, the literal descendants of Cain, slaughter their animal and or human sacrifice and purposely pour the blood into the ground. This day is extremely important to the Satanists controlling America today. Given the bloody nature of these 2 days, it seems fitting that they would be chosen to be the first official 2 days of this FEMA campaign. And now comes this notice that was sent around, apparently from this group of U.S. Army Special Forces and Green Beret alumni. It starts up, heads up all, I received a message asking for any SOF/Special Ops people to submit their applications for a FEMA nationwide strike team to include Special Forces, Ranger, SEAL, and other Special Operations Force personnel for a one-marched rush hiring process. We have heard rumors that something big is coming down in Washington on or about 21st of March. This is part of the transmission to me. And I have this posted, folks. Again, you can read this for yourself. This is over at labvirus.com. Most recent post. FEMA jobs for SOF veterans, time sensitive. FEMA is rapidly attempting to identify potential applicants for approximately 800 available positions within FEMA's National Preparedness Directorate. They have established strike teams, which have been asked to be filled by March 1st. They will be utilizing all the available direct hiring authorities, including VRA, Vets Preference, Schedule A, etc., more aggressively within the next 2 weeks. This week, the team is concentrated on prioritizing the vacancies, reviewing available CERTS /veterans lists /Schedule A applicants, and scheduling interviews. Interviews are to be conducted the week of February the 19th to 22nd, which is today, and the next few days. And we will schedule additional interviews the week of February 25th through March 1st if necessary. Offers will be made based on the outcome of these interviews. A PDF list of the functional position titles, grades, and position descriptions they are actively recruiting against are being provided to the U.S. SOCOM Care Coalition and the Naval Special Warfare Family Foundation for posting on their website. If you are aware of any eligible veterans or Schedule A candidates that would meet these qualifications, please forward them to the Strike Team POC. The final comment there, this is a red flag. These are combat-ready teams preparing for use here. Ready yourselves. So, I would just suggest, folks, keep your nose to the ground, ears to the ground, and observe these coming dates. For years, we've been watching the vernal equinox rituals going on out in the woods up here in Northern California. Missing children and all kinds of craziness in the world of satanic ritual abuse. Lot of headlines again over this weekend. I'm gonna pause for a minute and just remind everyone, please, to contribute to the micro effect. At the very least, subscribe to the archives. They're $20 a month. This is content you won't find anywhere else. Micro Effect is an independently run, family-run organization, and they need your contributions in order to continue broadcasting. So, again, please go to themicroeffect.com and donate generously. The host of this show, Dr. A. Truott, he doesn't talk about it much on his own radio show, but he is also he runs a supplement business called Mother Earth Minerals, and he's got an amazing array of products there that you can find for wellness and worth spending some time taking a look at. It's meminerals.com. Go there and review all of the very unique health supplements and texts and other technologies you can find there. He's really done a lot of incredible work. Also, his blog is atruott.com, atrueott.com. And mine is labvirus.com. Again, my name is Alex Studer, and I'm sort of a new guest to the story behind the story. I'm doing 2 days a week now for True. I'm still kind of processing the loss of my sidekick Kitty Cat. She's no longer here, so it's a little bit of a lonely studio today. rioting going on in Spain and Greece. You see very little, if any, of this spoken of in American media sources. But these are reactions to austerity in Greece. They're meeting the president of France with strong strikes and protests, and again, the media is not covering it. Huge strike and protest in Bahrain. Again, media is completely silent on it over this weekend. Over here, it's all just NCAA basketball and Barney. It's just killing me, folks. I just got done listening to a lecture. Well, actually, it was a sort of a conference telephone call / lecture given on Skype that was recorded, and it's available for the public to listen to. And I'm going to talk about it in a little bit of a later segment, but it's the latest from Clifford Carnicom. For those who don't really know who he is, he's the founder of the Carnicom Institute, and he's one of the leading researchers into what this Morgellons thing really is and where it comes from, and he's actually gotten down into the nitty-gritty science of it all and put it under microscopes and really been following a scientific process with it patiently over time. He's now into his, I think, 13th year at it. And he's made some interesting revelations, some announcements in the last few days. As of February 12th, he just came forth with some new information that pretty much changes everything that we have known so far about this condition, and it indicates the need for even further research. So I'll get into that in a minute. I also would like to, sometime during today's show, discuss to you this thing which people refer to as NESARA. It's an interesting proposal. It's nothing that has been voted on, and it's interesting because there's it too is fighting its own little war with saboteurs, agent provocateur, disinfo agents, attempting to sort of steal the attention of anyone interested in it and throw a wrench into it to fully discredit it for what it intends in the first place. And NESARA is an acronym for a proposed National Economic Stabilization and Recovery Act. It is, and again, it is nothing that has been voted into, and this is the disinfo campaign, which is very interesting to me, that they suffer from this formulaic sort of approach, because in my opinion it's very, for those who are familiar with my story, Jane Burgermeister-ish, in the way that she sort of initially infiltrated and took the ball and ran with it, and then spun it and began to discredit those who were researching into this H1N1 being a bioweapon and the toxicity of the vaccine campaign that is associated with it. So that's something that I want to talk about. There's a couple new pieces of info that are again, there's just crazy headlines over the weekend. I don't even know where to begin, really. Anonymous. Okay, y'all have heard of this anonymous group, okay? Right? They're just a bunch of random hackers, but apparently with some serious power. Who knows who they really are? For all intents and purposes, could be another branch of an alphabet soup agency. Why? I don't know. But the latest move from this group, Anonymous, is that they hacked into the State Department and have now released onto the internet 1.7 gigabytes of State Department information. I do not know what the contents include. I am very curious to find out. But this is very readily accessible and publicly downloadable right now. I'm not going to provide you the link with which you can do it. It's just something you can easily research yourself in any search effort. But this has been done. It's apparently partially in response to this Aaron Schwartz issue and some other frustrations. Some names were mentioned. This is a part of a little program they call Monday Mayhem. So that's to indicate this did occur yesterday, which it did. It's astounding to me, the revelations that are coming forth from groups such as Anonymous and Lulzsec and WikiLeaks. This guy Julian Assange. How these people get these informations is these informational releases is always suspect to me. And I'm always questioning, what is the truth of what we are being told about all of these so-called modern day patriots who are, unveiling these secrets. Certainly, I am one to be interested in learning the secrets because I don't believe that, as JFK stated, there's nothing that can be, gained for humanity in the big picture by keeping secrets. I'm paraphrasing, but he publicly declared there was shame in secrets. But at the same time, I'm curious if are there any intel relationships to any of these people? Are any of them decoys? Are they plants? Are they being specifically put there to make these informational releases? Who knows? Over the weekend, I was accused by I am only assuming a very drunk person of being yet another disinfo agent, and this time it was really very funny because out of the blue, the person began stating that I was somehow associated with this Saoirse Fall character, and that's a name I haven't really heard in a long time. But for those who don't kind of know the story of this Saoirse Fall, Sorcha Fall, Faal. This is kind of old news, but I think it was 2010 that we really did the digging and found that Saoirse Fall is just sort of a disinfo, plagiarizing, gatekeeping, wrench-throwing, what we believe to be a team of people, starting with one going by the name of David Booth. And so this is kind of a long saga, I guess, that continues to this day. That I have no idea how this person felt it was possible that I could be part of that. But I encountered that this weekend, so that's kind of an interesting little wrench that was thrown my way. Completely random, unsubstantiated. I've just had some very, very strange accusations, and apparently, some are even referring to this gobbledygook that's out there, that is being published by my two favorite people in the world, and I'm being completely sarcastic when I say that, folks. The Edomite Bopsy twins from Hawaii, and I'm not going to mention their names. I'm not going to glorify any attention to them. I'm not even going to bless them with negative PR. It's not worth mentioning their names because they don't deserve any attention whatsoever as far as I'm concerned. But they somehow seem to be obsessed with lambasting folks like Dr. Ott and me and a laundry list of others who I've never met and I have no association with whatsoever. But the just the mudslinging continues relentlessly, and I can only conclude that these are acts of what we call projection in sort of psychological denial-oriented terms. Unable to admit any of the qualities that they possess. Instead of, in an attempt to not be seen in such light in the public eye, immediately accuse the opponent or their enemy, in these cases, me and Ott and so forth, with the qualities that they themselves possess. And this is what I call to Burgermeister. This is exactly what we began to see in her after we first inquired, what are you doing with these crazy documents and not having talked to us in so many weeks after we gave you all this blah, blah. Well, this is kind of what I'm seeing now from the Edomite Bopsy twins and these accusations of, being being involved with Satanists, being involved in pedophile rings. I can't even remember all of the. I mean, it's just absurd. Some of the claims that these people make, without any kind of care about them being true or not, thinking that they can just blindly just with impunity go ahead and create these false accusations, and nothing's going to happen. Well. I would venture to say that at some point something is going to happen, because in a world where people rely on public opinion and search results for business decisions and so forth, you can't just go around lying about other people and expect not to have anything occur as a consequence, because when you go about damaging other people's reputation in deliberate attempts to slander them or discredit them, at some point someone's going to put their foot down and do something about it, and who knows what that may look like and when. Folks, when we come back from the break, I'm gonna read you some very critical rules of disinformation. And then we're going to take a look at this story of this thing called Nasara, which I find very interesting and it's inspiring. It's a pity that they too are going through this disinfo wars, so to speak. But such is the price of trying to do something honest and sincere. And just as a note, apparently the other day George Soros dumped $100 million in gold assets on the market, and I have friends who are curious. What was that about? Was it paper gold, and then he bought physical gold, or did he dump physical gold? We don't know. We don't really have the backstory behind that. And I hang out. I have some friends that we're precious metal fanatics, and so we're kind of watching the prices of precious metals as these global currency wars manifest and begin to develop before our eyes. And I think anybody with any sense of what's going on in today's markets is hopefully by now getting a clue to really cinch out your assets out of the paper world. These markets aren't going to stay up for too much longer. And judging by what we're seeing in countries like Greece and Spain, you know, things don't look so good. We'll be back after these messages, folks. You're listening to the story behind the story. Don't go away. We'll be back in a few minutes.
We interrupt this program for an urgent announcement. The power's gone and the lights are out. We now have an emergency situation. Time to light your emergency candles. Don't have any? Then it's time to order your supply of emergency grab-and-go candles from LisaKCandles.com. The emergency candles outperform even the most extreme conditions. They are soot and toxin-free and have a natural extended shelf life. The time is now, so don't delay. Have emergency candles from Lisa K Candles ready when you need them, so you remain in the light and out of the dark. Go to LisaKCandles.com. That's Lisa, the letter K, Candles.com. Or call 731-441-3293. That's 731-441-3293. We now return you to the regular scheduled program already in progress.
Long Range Patrol Ration Entrees. If you know survival, you know LRPs are the undisputed king of military rations. Hands down the best for your bug-out bag or survival pack. To go farther, faster, and carry more food, there's nothing better than a Brick Pack LRP cold weather ration entree. Nothing. Now, the Freeze Dry Guy is offering a limited time deal on thousands of fresh LRP entrees. We're talking a menu of tasty and nutritious beef stew, chicken and rice, chili mac with beef, spaghetti and meat sauce with 20 entrees per case. These fresh 2011 LRPs are U.S. government contract overruns, perfect for long-term storage. But they're going fast at freezedryguy.com. Far superior to MREs, long-range patrol entrees are about a third the weight of an MRE, with about a third more meat than the finest commercial freeze-dried entrees. Ask about multi-case discounts and free shipping when you call 866-404-3663 today. That's 866-404-3663 or freezedryguy.com. Your source for survival food in an uncertain world.
The Micro Effect is the purest form of alternative news and information on the airwaves today. Be part of the effort to inform your fellow Americans about the things they need to know. Help us reach those that are looking for answers and truth about the world today. For a limited time, we are offering a dozen business card-sized magnets for every $25 contribution. Take a minute and go to our website and take a look at how neatly designed these magnets are. Pass them out or give them to your friends and neighbors. Let others know that we are speaking out and that they too have a voice of freedom. Once again, that's a dozen Micro Effect magnets that are business card size for your $25 contribution. For those who are able to contribute more than $25, we have other offers, such as 30 magnets for a $50 contribution, or how about 75 business card sized Micro Effect magnets for $100. Help this network reach America 24 hours a day with your contributions. This is how we fight back with your freedom of speech. If you can't hear us, you're not listening.
Hi folks, Ronnie McMullen here for Life Change Tea. I want to share a truth with you. Many people call Life Change Tea to get help with health issues that are severe and life-threatening. They've seen their doctor and they're now motivated to be proactive in their health. Please listen. Once you are sick, it is a hard climb. Life Change Tea can help you, but it's a hard climb. Folks, there's an easier way. Tune your body up before you get sick. A drink a day will help keep the doctor away. Cleansing your colon is so crucial to good health. Seek the easy path and order today. Order now. It's easy. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. The emergency room is not a place for a friendly get-together. Again, 928-308-0408. Or you can order online at getthetea.com. Once again, getthetea.com.
Okay, welcome everybody, and welcome back. This is now the second segment of the story behind the story. Okay, thanks everybody. Welcome back. This is now the second segment of the story behind the story. I am your guest host, Alex Studer. Today is Tuesday, February 19th, 2013. Again, crazy couple days it's been. We're descending rapidly into some serious craziness, folks. And I'm just trying to address a couple little elements of it. As I pick apart what to talk about today. For the next few minutes, we're going to talk about something positive. I know it's been a lot of sort of doom and gloom, and unfortunately, we're up against some real seriously demonic entities who want to cause some serious harm on the planet. And there are a few out there, I'd suggest more than a few, who are trying to make some efforts to do something about it. One of whom is Clifford Carnicom, and we're going to get to discussing him in a little bit. But for right now, I'm going to talk about this idea, this proposal for a bill called NISARA. But before I get to that, I'm going to precede by reading to you something that I have linked up on my site. Again, I'm the author of this thing called labvirus.com, and on there I have a button called the PSYOP Wall of Shame. And this is just kind of my little list of names as they come to me, as I run across them, who in one way or another are associated with this agenda and are in knowing ways contributing to it at all, at any level, okay? And in preface to that, I have a link, and I just say, please read the 25 Rules of Disinformation before continuing. And what I want to read to you now is that little document, the 25 Rules of Disinformation. And it's basically titled 25 Ways to Suppress the Truth, the Rules of Disinformation, and in parentheses, it includes the 8 traits of a disinformationalist. And folks, in this world of folks like the Edomite Bobbsey twins and the Sorcerfalls and the AJs and so many other spin doctors out there who are fooling the public into getting them to believe that they are 100% quote-unquote truthers, it becomes increasingly important to know how to spot them and to understand those characteristics which make it obvious that that's what they are. And so that's why this document is really important, folks, and that's why I want to read it to you. It was written by one H. Michael Sweeney, first in 1997, and then it was revised in 2000. It's copyrighted, and it is fully given permission to reprint or distribute hereby for any non-commercial use, provided information reproduced in entirety, and with author information intact. The author's website is proparanoid.com, and that's just P-R-O, paranoid.com, okay? Built upon 13 Techniques for Truth Suppression by David Martin, the following may be useful to initiate in the world of dealing with veiled and half-truth, lies, and suppression of truth when serious crimes are studied in public forums. This, sadly, includes everyday news media, one of the worst offenders with respect to being a source of disinformation. Where the crime involves a conspiracy, or a conspiracy to cover up the crime, there will invariably be a disinformational campaign launched against those seeking to uncover and expose the truth and or the conspiracy. There are specific tactics which disinfo artists tend to apply as revealed here. Also included with this material are 7 common traits of the disinfo artist, which may also prove useful in identifying players and motives. The more a particular party fits the traits and is guilty of following the rules, the more likely there are a professional disinfo artist with a vested motive. People can be bought, threatened, or blackmailed into providing disinformation. So even quote-unquote good guys can be suspect in many cases. A rational person participating as one interested in the truth will evaluate that chain of evidence and conclude either that the links are solid and conclusive, that one or more links are weak and need further development before conclusion can be arrived at, or that one or more links can be broken, usually invalidating, but not necessarily so if parallel links already exist or can be found, or if a particular link was merely supportive but not in itself key to the argument. The game is played by raising issues which either strengthen or weaken, preferably to the point of breaking, these links. It is the job of a disinfo artist to interfere with these evaluations, to at least make people think the links are weak or broken when, in truth, they are not, or to propose alternative solutions leading away from the truth. Often, by simply impeding and slowing down the process through disinformation tactics, a level of victory is assured because apathy increases with time and rhetoric. It would seem true in almost every instance that if one cannot break the chain of evidence for a given solution, revelation of truth has won out. If the chain is broken, either a new link must be forged or a whole new chain developed, or the solution is invalid and a new one must be found. But truth still wins out. There is no shame in being the creator or supporter of a failed solution, chain, or link if done with honesty in search of the truth. This is the rational approach. While it's understandable that a person can become emotionally involved with a particular side of a given issue, it is really unimportant who wins as long as truth wins. But the disinfo artist will seek to emotionalize and chastise any failure, real or false claims thereof, and will seek by means of intimidation to prevent discussion in general. It's the disinfo artist and those who may pull their strings, those who stand to suffer should the crime be solved, must seek to prevent rational and complete examination of any chain of evidence which would hang them. Since fact and truth seldom fall on their own, they must be overcome with lies and deceit. Those who are professional in the art of lies and deceit, such as the intelligence community and the professional criminal, often the same people, or at least working together, tend to apply fairly well defined and observable tools in this process. However, the public at large is not well armed against such weapons and is often easily led astray by these time-proven tactics. Remarkably, not even media and law enforcement have not been trained to deal with these issues. For the most part, only the players themselves understand the rules of the game. For such disinformationalists, the overall aim is to avoid discussing links in the chain of evidence which cannot be broken by truth, but at all times to use clever deceptions or lies to make select links seem weaker than they are, create the illusion of a break, or better still, cause any who are considering the chain to be distracted in any number of ways, including the method of questioning the credentials of the presenter. Please understand that fact is fact, regardless of the source. Likewise, truth is truth, regardless of the source. This is why criminals are allowed to testify against other criminals. Where a motive to lie may truly exist, only actual evidence that the testimony itself is a lie renders it completely invalid. Were a known liar's testimony to stand on its own without supporting fact, it might certainly be of questionable value. But if the testimony or argument is based on verifiable or otherwise demonstrable facts, it matters not who does the presenting or what their motives are, or if they have lied in the past, or even if motivated to lie in this instance. The facts or links would and should stand or fall on their own merit, and their part in the matter will merely be supportive. Moreover, particularly with respect to public forums such as newspaper letters to the editor and internet chat and news groups, the disinfo type has a very important role. In these forums, the principal topics of discussion are generally attempts by individuals to cause other persons to become interested in their own particular position, idea, or solution, very much in development at the time. People often use such mediums as a sounding board and in hopes of pollination to better form their ideas. Where such ideas are critical of government or powerful vested groups, especially if their criminality is the topic. The disinfo artist has yet another role, the role of nipping it in the bud. They also seek to stage the concept, the presenter, and any supporters as less than credible, should any possible future confrontation in more public forums result due to their early successes. You can often spot the disinfo types at work here by the unique application of higher standards of discussion than necessarily warranted. They will demand that those presenting arguments or concepts back everything up with the same level of expertise as a professor, researcher, or investigative writer. Anything less renders any discussion meaningless and unworthy in their opinion, and anyone who disagrees is obviously stupid. And they generally put it exactly in those terms. So as you read any such discussions, particularly so in internet groups, internet news groups, NG, decide for yourself when a rational argument is being applied and when disinformation, psyops, otherwise known as psychological warfare operations, or trickery is the tool. Accuse those guilty of the latter freely. They, both those deliberately seeking to lead you astray and those who are simply foolish or misguided thinkers, generally run for cover when thus illuminated, or, put in other terms, they put up or shut up. A perfectly acceptable outcome either way, since truth is the goal. Here are the 25 methods and 7 traits, some of which don't apply directly to newsgroup application. Each contains a simple example in the form of actual, some paraphrased for simplicity, from newsgroup comments on commonly known historical events, and a proper response. And there's a link for a page of examples and response. Okay? Accusations should not be overused. Reserved for repeat offenders and those who will use multiple tactics. Responses should avoid falling into emotional traps or informational sidetracks, unless it is feared that some observers will be easily dissuaded by the trickery. Consider quoting the complete rule rather than simply citing it, as others will not have reference. Offer to provide a complete copy of the rule set upon request. And there's a permissions statement in the end. So here we go. 25 rules of disinformation. Note, the first rule and last 5 or 6, depending on the situation of the rules, are generally not directly within the ability of the traditional disinfo artist to apply. These rules are generally used more directly by those at the leadership, key players, or planning level of the criminal conspiracy or conspiracy to cover up. Okay. Number 1. Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. Regardless of what you know, don't discuss it, especially if you are a public figure, news anchor, etc. If it's not reported, it didn't happen, and you never have to deal with the issues. Number 2. Become incredulous and indignant. Avoid discussing key issues and instead focus on side issues, which can be used to show the topic as being critical of some otherwise sacrosanct group or theme. This is also known as the "how dare you" gambit. Number 3, create rumor mongers. Avoid discussing issues by describing all charges, regardless of venue or evidence, as mere rumors and wild accusations. Other derogatory terms, mutually exclusive of truth, may work as well. This method, which works especially well with a silent press, because the only way the public can learn of the facts are through such arguable rumors. If you can associate the material with the internet, use this fact to certify it as a wild rumor from a bunch of kids on the internet, which can have no basis in fact. Number 4. Use a straw man. Find or create a seeming element of your opponent's argument, which you can easily knock down to make yourself look good and the opponent to look bad. Either make up an issue you may safely imply exists based on your interpretation of the opponent's argument, situation, or select the weakest aspect of the weakest charges. Amplify their significance and destroy them in a way which appears to debunk all the charges, real and fabricated alike, while actually avoiding discussion of the real issues. Number 5. Sidetrack opponents with name-calling and ridicule. And boy, don't we know a lot about this, folks? This is also known as the primary attack the messenger ploy, though other methods qualify as variants of that approach. Associate opponents with unpopular titles such as kooks, right-wing, liberal, left-wing, terrorists, conspiracy buffs, radicals, militia, racists, religious fanatics, sexual deviants, and so forth. This makes others shrink from support out of fear of gaining the same label, and you avoid dealing with issues. Number 6. Hit and run. In any public forum, make a brief attack of your opponent or the opponent position and then scamper off before an answer can be fielded, or simply ignore any answer. This works extremely well in internet and letters to the editor environments where a steady stream of new identities can be called upon without having to explain criticism, reasoning. Simply make an accusation or other attack, never discussing issues and never answering any subsequent response, for that would dignify the opponent's viewpoint. Number 7. Question motives. Twist or amplify any fact which could be taken to imply that the opponent operates out of a hidden personal agenda or other bias. This avoids discussing issues and forces the accuser on the defensive. Number 8. Invoke authority. Claim for yourself or associate yourself with authority and present your argument with enough jargon and minutia to illustrate you are the only one who knows or are one who knows, and simply say it isn't so without discussing issues or demonstrating concretely why or citing sources. Number 9. Play dumb. No matter what evidence or logical argument is offered, avoid discussing issues except with denials they have any credibility, make any sense, or provide any proof, contain or make a point, have logic or support a conclusion. Mix well for maximum effect. Story of my life, folks. I'm just reading you everything I go through on a daily basis, practically. Okay. Number 10. Associate opponent charges with old news. It's a derivative of the straw man. Usually, in any large-scale matter of high visibility, someone will make charges early on which can be or were already easily dealt with, a kind of investment for the future should the matter not be so easily contained. Where it can be foreseen, have your own side raise a straw man issue and have it dealt with early on as part of the initial contingency plan. Subsequent charges, regardless of validity or new ground uncovered, can usually then be associated with the original charge and dismissed as simply being a rehash without need to address current issues. So much the better where the opponent is or was involved with the original source. Number 11. Establish and rely upon fallback positions. Using a minor matter or element of the facts, take the high road and confess with candor that some innocent mistake in hindsight was made, but that opponents have seized on the opportunity to blow it all out of proportion and imply greater criminalities, which just isn't so. Others can reinforce this on your behalf later, and even publicly call for an end to the nonsense because you have already done the right thing. Done properly, this can garner sympathy and respect for coming clean and owning up to your mistakes without addressing more serious issues. Number 12. Enigmas have no solution. Drawing upon the overall umbrella of events surrounding the crime and the multitude of players and events, paint the entire affair as too complex to solve. This causes those otherwise following the matter to begin to lose interest more quickly without having to address the actual issues. Number 13. Alice in Wonderland logic. Avoid discussion of the issues by reasoning backwards or with an apparent deductive logic for which forbears any actual material fact. Number 14. Demand complete solutions. Avoid the issues by requiring opponents to solve the crime at hand completely, a ploy which works best with issues qualifying for rule number 10. Number 15. Fit the facts to alternate conclusions. This requires creative thinking unless the crime was planned with contingency conclusions in place. Number 16. Vanish evidence and witnesses. If it does not exist, it is not fact, and you won't have to address the issue. Number 17. Change the subject. Usually in connection with one of the other ploys listed here, find a way to sidetrack the discussion with abrasive or controversial comments in hopes of turning attention to a new, more manageable topic. This works especially well with companions who can argue with you over the new topic and polarize the discussion arena in order to avoid discussing more key issues. And we're not going to get through all 28 before the break, but we'll stop when we come to the break and we'll finish up. Number 18, emotionalize, antagonize, and goad opponents. If you can't do anything else, chide and taunt your opponents and draw them into emotional responses, which will tend to make them look foolish and overly motivated, and generally render their material somewhat less coherent. Not only will you... Okay, we're going to break, folks. We'll be back in a couple minutes. We'll finish up reading the 25 Rules of Disinformation after this break. We'll be right back. Okay, I guess we're... Okay.
If you're considering a water filter, have you heard about Aquapale? Aquapale from FreezeDryGuy.com has huge advantages over many other water filters. American-made Aquapale units are designed and engineered to not just filter contaminated water, but capture or kill all bacteria and viruses to non-detectable levels. Aquapale has the fastest flow rate of any other water filter on the market, filtering a gallon of contaminated water in about 5 minutes. That's water when you need it. Now, get the world's fastest, safest, and most reliable gravity-fed portable water treatment system for surface, well, and wastewater sources. Aquapale. Available in 4 sizes starting at only $100. And all orders to the lower 48 ship free. Call 866-404-3663 or go to FreezeDryGuy.com. That's 866-404-3663 or FreezeDryGuy.com. 100% veteran-owned. The Freeze Dry Guy.
Positive results from satisfied customers of Heart and Body Extract continue to pour into our website, hbextract.com.
This is Al from New Jersey. One day I saw your ad for Heart and Body Extract, and it mentioned that it would help me with angina, so I decided to order. I figure I had nothing to lose.
Heart and Body Extract supplies your body with everything it needs to balance itself and maintain optimal heart and circulatory health with no negative side effects.
I took the formula 3 times a day as directed, and I kid you not, within 4 days my angina pain was completely gone.
Order HB Extract by calling 866-295-5305 or online at hbextract.com. That's 866-295-5305 or hbextract.com.
I could not believe it actually stopped the pain. Heart and Body Extract actually works. This is just an amazing product. Even the numbness in my hands is completely gone.
Heart and Body Extract for a long and healthy life.
The Micro Effect is the purest form of alternative news and information on the airwaves today. Be part of the effort to inform your fellow Americans about the things they need to know. Help us reach those that are looking for answers and truth about the world today. For a limited time, we are offering a dozen business card-sized magnets for every $25 contribution. Take a minute and go to our website and take a look at how neatly designed these magnets are. Pass them out or give them to your friends and neighbors. Let others know that we are speaking out and that they too have a voice of freedom. Once again, that's a dozen micro-effect magnets that are business card size for your $25 contribution. For those who are able to contribute more than $25, we have other offers, such as 30 magnets for a $50 contribution, or how about 75 business card size micro-effect magnets for $100. Help this network reach America 24 hours a day with your contributions. This is how we fight back with your freedom of speech. If you can't hear us, you're not listening.
And we're back. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. This is the third segment out of 4 of today's The Story Behind the Story. Today is Tuesday, February 19th, 2013. I am your guest host, Alex Studer, coming to you from the back of a rusted-out ice cream truck somewhere under a bridge in the beautiful city of San Francisco. I want to remind you folks that I'm a recording musician. I am a songwriter. This is not really what I was entirely cut out for. If you ever want to go listen to my music and purchase any of my singles, I have over, I think, 39 songs available now over at the soundclick.com website. And that web address is soundclick.com/ my full name, which is Alex McGowan Studer. That's ALEX M as in Mary CGOWIN STUDER. So if you go to soundclick.com / Alex McGowan Studer, you will get to my website for my music. And up in the left corner there's a button for, you hit the music link. You can watch my little video there of one of my songs. It's one of my 9/11 songs, a song called Building 7. And then you can go up in the corner there and hit the music button and go listen to some of my other material. A lot of this is from film soundtracks and just my solo work that I've been doing over the years. I'm working on the release of a CD at some point, my debut solo album CD, but I don't know, it seems like every time I get the impetus to get that act together, something happens and I suffer another setback. So at this point, who knows? I'll just be glad if we can make it past this March 20th through 22nd window without all heck breaking loose all over the world because of this latest bulletin I read you in the first segment when I came on. So picking up where where I just left off, folks, and just, ordinarily at this point in the program when True Odd is hosting, he likes to do his America in Jeopardy, and I don't kind of do that. That's not it's not part of my agenda. We're all in jeopardy, and in more ways than I'd like to really discuss, but yeah, that's something that he only does on his show, and so... Okay, so moving on where I left off, we were reading the 25 Rules of Disinformation, and I think this is incredibly important to just sort of address before I get to the next topic, and then just have under our belt as we move forward, because we continually deal with these, as I keep mentioning, the Edomite Bopsy twins, and these other attacks from people, and it all just comes from hitting the nail on the head and exposing a bunch of insects that have been hiding under a rock for a long time, and you just basically kick the rock over and now they're all scurrying. So number 18, where we had left off, the 18th rule of disinformation out of 25 is Emotionalize, antagonize, and goad the opponents. If you can't do anything else, chide and taunt your opponents and draw them into emotional responses, which will tend to make them look foolish and overly motivated, and generally render their material somewhat less coherent. Not only will you avoid discussing the issues in the first instance, but even if their emotional response addresses the issue, you can further avoid the issues by then focusing on how sensitive they are to criticism. Number 19. Ignore proof presented and demand impossible proofs. This is perhaps a variant of the play dumb rule. Regardless of what material may be presented by an opponent in public forums, claim the material irrelevant and demand proof that is impossible for the opponent to come by. It may exist, but not be at his disposal, or may be something which is known to be safely destroyed or withheld, such as a murder weapon. In order to completely avoid discussing issues, it may be required that you categorically deny and be critical of media or books as valid sources. Deny that witnesses are acceptable, or even deny that statements made by government or other authorities have any meaning or relevance. False evidence. Whenever possible, introduce new facts or clues designed and manufactured to conflict with opponent presentations as useful tools to neutralize sensitive issues or impede resolution. This works best when the crime was designed with contingencies for the purpose and the facts cannot easily be separated from the fabrications. Number 21, call a grand jury, special prosecutor, or other empowered investigative body. Subvert the process to your benefit and effectively neutralize all sensitive issues without open discussion. Once convened, the evidence and testimony are required to be secret when properly handled. For instance, if you own the prosecuting attorney, it can ensure a grand jury hears no useful evidence and that the evidence is sealed and unavailable to subsequent investigators. Once a favorable verdict is achieved, the matter can be considered officially closed. Usually this technique is applied to find the guilty innocent, but can also be used to obtain charges when seeking to frame a victim. Number 22. Manufacture a new truth. Create your own experts, group, author, leader, or influence existing ones willing to forge new ground via scientific, investigative, or social research or testimony which concludes favorably. In this way, if you must actually address issues, you can do so authoritatively. Number 23, create bigger distractions. If the above does not seem to be working to distract from sensitive issues or to prevent unwanted media coverage of unstoppable events such as trials, create bigger news stories or treat them as such to distract the multitudes. And folks, that's what the film Wag the Dog was basically about. For those who haven't seen the film, I keep bringing it up. It's a prime example of what we just heard read in the 23rd Rule of Disinformation. Number 24, silence critics. If the above methods do not prevail, consider removing opponents from circulation by some definitive solution so that the need to address issues is removed entirely. This can be by their death, arrest and detention, blackmail or destruction of their character by release of blackmail information, or merely by destroying them financially, emotionally, or severely damaging their health. Now, that's no joke, folks. Number 25, vanish. If you're a key holder of secrets or otherwise overly illuminated and you think the heat is getting too hot, to avoid the issues, vacate the kitchen. Note, there are other ways to attack truth, but these listed are the most common, and others are likely derivatives of these. In the end, you can usually spot the professional disinfo players by one or more of 7, now 8, distinct traits. Number 1, avoidance. They never actually discuss issues head-on or provide constructive input, generally avoiding citation of references or credentials. Rather, they merely imply this, that, and the other. Virtually everything about their presentation implies their authority and expert knowledge in the matter without any further justification for credibility. The number 2 trait of a disinformationalist, selectivity. They tend to pick and choose opponents carefully, either applying the hit-and-run approach against mere commentators supportive of opponents, or focusing heavier attacks on key opponents who are known to directly address issues. Should a commentator become argumentative with any success, the focus will shift to include the commentator as well. The number 3 trait of a disinformationalist: coincidental. They tend to surface suddenly and somewhat coincidentally with new controversial topics with no clear prior record of participation in general discussions in the particular public arena involved. They likewise tend to vanish once the topic is no longer of general concern. They were likely directed or elected to be there for a reason and vanish with the reason. The 4th trait of a disinformationalist: teamwork. They tend to operate in self-congratulatory and complementary packs or teams. Of course, this can happen naturally in any public forum, but there will likely be an ongoing pattern of frequent exchanges of this sort where professionals are involved. Sometimes one of the players will infiltrate the opponent camp to become a source for straw man or other tactics designed to dilute opponent presentation strength. Number 5, anti-conspiratorial. They almost always have disdain for conspiracy theorists, and usually for those who in any way believe JFK was not killed by LHO. Ask yourself why. If they hold such disdain for conspiracy theorists, do they focus on defending a single topic discussed in a news group focusing on conspiracies? One might think they would either be trying to make fools of everyone on every topic, or simply ignore the group they hold in such disdain. Or one might more rightly conclude they have an ulterior motive for their actions in going out of their way to focus as they do. The 6th trait of a disinformationalist out of 8: artificial emotions. An odd kind of artificial emotionalism and an unusually thick skin, an ability to persevere and persist even in the face of overwhelming criticism and unacceptance. This likely stems from intelligence community training that, no matter how condemning the evidence, deny everything and never become emotionally involved or reactive. The net result for a disinfo artist is that emotions can seem artificial. Most people, if responding in anger, for instance, will express their animosity throughout their rebuttal. But disinfo types usually have trouble maintaining the image and are hot and cold with respect to pretended emotions, and they're usually more calm or unemotional communications style. It's just a job, and they often seem unable to act their role in character as well in a communications medium as they might be able to in a real face-to-face conversation or confrontation. You might have outright rage and indignation one moment, ho-hum the next, and more anger later, an emotional yo-yo. With respect to being thick-skinned, no amount of criticism will deter them from doing their job, and they will generally continue their old disinfo patterns without any adjustment to criticisms of how obvious it is that they play that game. Where a more rational individual who truly cares what others think might seek to improve their communication style, substance, and so forth, or simply give up. The 7th trait: inconsistent. There's also a tendency to make mistakes which betray their true self-motives. This may stem from not really knowing their topic, or it may be somewhat Freudian, so to speak, and perhaps they really root for the side of truth deep within. I've noted that often they will simply cite contradictory information which neutralizes itself and the author. For instance, one such player claimed to be a Navy pilot, but blamed his poor communicating skills, spelling, grammar, incoherent style, on having only a grade school education. I'm not aware of too many Navy pilots who don't have a college degree. Another claimed no knowledge of particular topic situation, but later claimed first-hand knowledge of it. And the 8th, and pretty much a bonus trait, time constant, recently discovered with respect to news groups, is the response time factor. There are 3 ways this can be seen to work, especially when the government or other empowered player is involved in a cover-up operation. The first is, any news group posting by a targeted proponent for truth can result in an immediate response. The government and other empowered players can afford to pay people to sit there and watch for an opportunity to do some damage. Since disinfo in a news group only works if the reader sees it, fast response is called for, or the visitor may be swayed towards truth. The second of three is when dealing in more direct ways with a disinformationalist, such as email, delay is called for. There will be usually a minimum of 48 to 72-hour delay. This allows a sit-down team discussion on response strategy for best effect, and is even enough time to get permission or instruction from a formal chain of command. And the third, in the news group example 1 above, it will also be seen that bigger guns are drawn and fired after the same 48 to 72-hour delay, the team approach in this play. This is especially true when the targeted truth seeker or their comments are considered more important with respect to potential to reveal truth. Thus, a serial truth sayer will be attacked twice for the same sin. I close with the first paragraph of the introduction to my unpublished book, Fatal Rebirth. Truth cannot live on a diet of secrets, withering within entangled lies. Freedom cannot live on a diet of lies, surrendering to the veil of oppression. The human spirit cannot live on a diet of oppression, becoming subservient in the end to the will of evil. God, as truth incarnate, will not long let stand a world devoted to such evil. Therefore, let us have the truth and freedom our spirits require, or let us die seeking these things, for without them we shall surely and justly perish in an evil world. That's the 25 rules of disinfo, folks, and the 8 characteristics of a disinformationalist. And thank you for bearing with me and letting me get through that. I think it's essential to have read, get understood, put it on the record so people can fast forward, play it on the archives. This is vital stuff, because this is exactly what we are all subjected to as we are bombarded by what they call programming, this drivel they call television, telling lies with vision, okay? It's just the dumbing down of America in a program fashion. It's literally mass brainwashing, and I don't know how better to say it, folks. That being said, there's this thing called NISARA, and the proposal for a bill of something called the National Economic Stabilization and Recovery Act. Now, if you go to a search for NISARA, you could very easily get confused by a disinfo group, and this is why I wanted to read that, just another example. There's this character out there called the Dove of Oneness, and they have all these flyers you can download, and it's just this beautiful utopian bill that somehow does away with the Fed and cancels all our debt, and boy, it just reinstalls the Constitution and blah blah blah. It's just, but it's already been enacted into law. Why isn't it being enforced? Well, that's the disinfo campaign. The real deal is over at the founder's website. It's nisara.org, NESARA.org. And just reading, okay, I'm getting an echo in my ear. Can somebody please, thank you. It was founded by this guy, Dr. Harvey Barnard, B-A-R-N-A-R-D. The first couple paragraphs of that, and then we'll go to break, and I'll come back and I'll talk to you about the Clifford Carnicom thing. Dr. Harvey Barnard stated his search for a root cause and the solutions to America's social problems in the late 1960s, when a professor at Louisiana State University casually remarked during a lecture that social and economic problems could be analyzed and solved with the same tools and techniques used to solve industrial problems. That single comment launched a lifetime pursuit of intellectual curiosity that later became a crusade driven by nothing more than the challenge of doing the seemingly impossible. After many years of personal study, Dr. Barnard developed a new theory of money. His NISARA legislative proposal began as a formal idea in the late 80s. The current NISARA proposal saw first light in the early 90s as a proposal for monetary policy reform. Later, Dr. Bernard added his proposals for fiscal policy reform. In 1996, Dr. Barnard self-published his first version of Draining the Swamp, which contained the first public copy of his full NESARA proposal. He circulated copies to members of Congress and other influential political actors. After numerous personal attempts to introduce NESARA to Congress, including attempts to encourage presidential candidates to use NESARA as part of a political reform platform, Dr. Bernard decided that the best hope for meaningful reform was through a grassroots effort. In 1999, with the World Wide Web beginning to impact modern social structures, he put his NESARA proposal in the public domain, went live with his website in 2000. He founded the NESARA Institute in 2001. Shortly after introducing NESARA to the World Wide Web, certain people latched on to the idea and began promoting a different version of this story. Supporters of the altered version believe that NESARA was enacted into law secretly during the Clinton administration, that there are white knights working tirelessly behind the political scenes to inform the world of this secret legislation, and that the altered version of NESARA promises numerous debt forgiveness elements. Originally, the altered story did not dispute the original NESARA acronym used by Dr. Barnard, but as rumors increased, supporters also altered the NESARA acronym. Although a little more than a curiosity for a few years, the altered version took on life of its own and now grows throughout the World Wide Web much like a cancer. So influential is this alternate effort that many people have protested outside the World Court, and some people have paid thousands of dollars to advertise their version of it on the side panels of advertising trucks in Washington, D.C. Sadly, this disinformation campaign has reduced the credibility of Dr. Barnard's efforts, and today the word NESARA is an ill-received word at Congress. To this day, Dr. Barnard's NESARA proposal has yet to be introduced. The staff at the NESARA Institute understands part of the emotional and psychological reasons why people support the alternate version of NESARA. Dr. Barnard intended to provide meaningful social reform through this NESARA proposal. He believed that no meaningful social reform was possible without meaningful monetary system reform. Dr. Barnard believed that although individual units of money were privately owned, the monetary exchange system itself was owned by everybody, and that the system must be fair and equitable to all people at all times, and not just benefit a few politically privileged people. Part of that monetary reform required modifying the fundamental equations that drive the current economic system, primarily through the socially disruptive concept known as compound interest. By restructuring those equations, Dr. Barnard believed that meaningful monetary reform was possible. Restructuring those equations necessarily implied a shift in the character of debt. Debt would not disappear, but most people would find themselves in debt for much shorter periods. This effort would return resources to people so that they once again tasted and experienced meaningful social liberty. Unfortunately, many supporters of the alternate NESARA story interpreted this change in the character of debt as a debt reduction or debt forgiveness plan. Perhaps more sadly is that several investment schemes and prosperity programs circulate around the alternate NESARA story. And because so many people desire meaningful monetary reform, find themselves succumbing to the siren's lure and providing these schemers money. Money that is never again seen, nor is any return on investment ever realized. Of course, the alternate story rests upon a conspiracy theory in that NESARA allegedly was passed secretly. Thus, researchers can ask for a copy of this alleged act, but will be told that no copy exists because of the secret passage. Diligent researchers are reminded of the impossibility of honestly investigating this alternate version of NESARA, and that such difficulties should provide clues about authenticity. Additionally, the process of enacting a legislative proposal and bill into law is easily understood by surfing the web. Researchers will learn that no proposed legislation or bill is ever enacted secretly. Of course, the copy of NISARA proposed by Dr. Bernard is available here at this website, and again, this is nisara.org, as well as in Draining the Swamp. There are also claims from supporters of the alternate NISARA that Dr. Bernard and NISARA Institute staff members all work for President Bush or other nefarious New World Order organizations. They also claim that NISARA, as presented here at this website, is merely a ploy to detract people from knowing the so-called true NISARA. Before investing funds with anybody, one should diligently research the investment plan. That research includes reading literature, conversing with people, and then seriously evaluating the information based upon facts and not pure emotion. The staff at the NISARA Institute empathizes with those who have lost hard-earned funds to these schemers and scam promoters. But a life of social liberty begins first and foremost with self-responsibility. Perhaps one day, the alternate NISARA story will fizzle and disappear, but as long as people act and respond through emotion rather than intelligence, then these scam artists will continue to succeed. Some people believe that there is no such thing as bad publicity, but many serious NISARA advocates now realize there is also a point of no return with some kinds of publicity. Credibility becomes a factor because of the effort to circulate the alternate NISARA story. Serious advocates of Dr. Bernard's NISARA idea would like to see NISARA introduced into Congress. Serious advocates realize that doing so is an uphill battle simply through the fundamental political process, but that the alternate NISARA story makes that hill steeper and more difficult to climb. True monetary and fiscal policy reforms still await. Social conflict continues because of the flawed equations that drive the system. Please exercise some common sense before deciding to support the alternate NISARA story. This is from the page The Real NISARA, again from the nisara.org site. I encourage everybody, please, to take some time and do some perusing at nisara.org. N as in Nancy, ESARA.org, and read about this proposed legislation from this guy, Dr. Harvey Barnard. It's quite interesting. I was unaware of this until just yesterday. And isn't it cool that I have friends who are smart and cool enough to turn me on to this sort of thing? I love running into this sort of activism in a positive way. These are real patriots, folks, who are really trying to solve the problems rather than sitting behind their bullhorns and on their cable television show trying to scare the bejesus out of you. Okay? And telling you to go grab your gun and start pointing them at regardless of how slippery the slope we're on, folks, the solution does not arise from taking arms against your oppressors at this point. It is only going to lead to this thing, and I mentioned it in the last program, something that they've planned for and are attempting to incite with such bullhorning, rambunctious, rage-filled disinfo agents, something called civil unrest, okay? And it's been provisioned against in legislation that's already passed in executive orders. And as soon as revolution becomes a reality and mass civil unrest, if we see things happen here like what are happening in Greece and Spain, it's over, folks. They're gonna enact that legislation, and that's gonna basically set forth a domino spill in a certain direction from which we can never return in a legal sense, and that's the enaction of a full state of martial law and the permanent shredding of what is left of this document we hold so dear, the Constitution. Okay, once we go to a martial law state, it becomes complete socialist dictatorship, and there are no provisions from which ever to return. It's not a permanent switch. It's not something like they just did when this Nemo storm hit New York and Connecticut last weekend, all right? And we saw 4 states declare states of emergency and go to states of martial law, and there be curfews, and you're not allowed out, okay? This is going to be a lot worse when a national state of emergency is announced for whatever reason, and it could be just, guy didn't get the right kind of berries on his cornflakes that morning. It doesn't matter. It's his prerogative. Don't go away. We're going to be back in a few minutes for the final segment of today's Story Behind the Story.
Hello, I have something I'd like to share with you. LisaKCandles.com is an all-natural soybean candle alternative. Before I found Lisa K Candles, I had lingering soot and allergens in my home. Not today. My Lisa K Candles are clearly a difference to see and breathe. And that's a good peace of mind. LisaKCandles.com is an all-natural soybean candle, handmade from their popular line of fragrances. And guys, these candles make a perfect gift. Order an all-natural soy candle from LisaKCandles.com. I'm glad I did, and I know you will be too. Visit LisaKCandles.com. That's Lisa, the letter K, Candles.com. Or call 731-441-3293. That's 731-441-3293.
Hey, Dad.
Hey, buddy.
How come we have a bunch of emergency food stashed in a basement?
Well, it's down there because there are things going on in the world that concern me that I think could potentially interrupt our food supply. And if that happens, I don't want us to starve.
You mean we could, go to the grocery and there wouldn't be anything in there?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
A lot of ways that could happen. And if it does, a bunch of people are going to starve. And it's my job to make sure that you don't.
Thanks, Dad.
And I don't want to starve either. And that's why we got food from the freeze-dry guy. It's the best long-term storage food you can get. And if it comes to that, we'll be ready.
Dad?
Yeah?
Some people say you're kind of a crackpot, but you make a lot of sense.
Well, thanks, I think. Get your supply of the best long-term storage food available. Call 866-404-3663 or go to freezedryguide.com.
Body Extract continues to receive positive testimonials from people who have experienced amazing results, like Reed.
I just wanted to send you a quick but a very big thank you for Heart and Body Extract. I've been on the formula for nearly a month now, and the improvement in the circulation of my leg has been simply amazing.
Reed was facing a tough choice.
I was facing surgery due to the severity of a 100% blocked artery in both my legs. And my decision, waiting for surgery, to say no and try Heart and Body Extract instead, has been thankfully the right decision.
And the result?
I can now walk up steps without noticeable pain.
Order Heart and Body Extract at 866-295-5305, 866-295-5305, or hbextract.com. Heart and Body Extract for a long and healthy life.
To the micro effect. We didn't get here by chance. Our existence is no mistake. We got here because America needs what we provide, and that's information. Information that can be used in your daily lives. While we're waiting for others to wake up and realize that they too need the information we provide, your support is needed to keep us going 24 hours a day. This is no easy task we've burdened ourselves with, and we have created a network of those who will continue to keep you up to date with the current events and actions that people should be aware of. No one here gets a paycheck. Everyone here contributes their all and more. All we need is your support to keep going. So make it count by making a contribution to our efforts, and our promise is we'll make our effort count. You can't stop America when everyone is pulling together. TheMicroEffect.com. Call 888-747-1968. Make your contribution today at P.O. Box 164, Kamei, Idaho 83536, or on the web at www.themicroeffect.com.
And we're back, folks, for the final segment of today's Story Behind the Story. And thanks for bearing with me as I read through the 25 Rules of Disinformation. I realized that was a bit of a mouthful. But this is really important information to understand the modus operandi. Oops, sorry, folks. Sorry, folks. We're back. We're back. Can you hear me now? Okay, testing 1, 2, 3. Mic wasn't plugged in here. Little technical snafus. They happen left and right. Sorry about that, folks. Okay, we're back to the final segment here of the Story Behind the Story. And, you know, thanks for bearing with me as I read the 25 Rules of Disinfo. I realized that was a bit of a mouthful, but it's critical to have that and understand the modus operandi of the enemy, basically. You know, the only way you can really defeat your enemy is really knowing them, and you know, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. All right, that's kind of what that's about. So, you know, that being said, you know, if those who are familiar to news groups and chat rooms and that sort of thing often refer to these kinds of people as trolls. And here in the Micro Effect chat room, we've been identifying that, and you know, we're cracking jokes about troll juggling and troll tossing, but it's true. It's that's what they're known as. And you know, I have a couple things to say about trolls. Don't feed them. Do not feed the trolls. If you find yourself in such a situation, and you're dealing with an obvious troll or disinfo agent who fits into the descriptions that we read, you know, in the second and third segments there, then, you know, do not engage. DNE, I call it. And that's just sort of, you know, the standard operating procedure for how to deal with a troll is don't. Because ultimately their goal is to sort of suck you in and lure you into playing their game, and in doing so you make yourself vulnerable. You open yourself to their being able to push your buttons. Just don't even play that game. If you find yourself at, you know, in combat or conflict with somebody that you think is a troll, just stop. Just engage. Just ignore whatever you can do. Just don't talk to them anymore. It's my advice. This last segment, I want to talk about Clifford Carnicom. Okay, folks. Clifford Carnicom has been, for the last 12 years, looking at this thing Morgellons under the microscope much more than I have. And as you folks, any of you who listened to my previous show on Morgellons, I recognize that I too have this condition. I've viewed my own biopsy samples under a microscope and readily identified the fibrous filaments growing out of my skin and the various artifacts and anomalies as Morgellons. Okay, now Clifford Carnicom has founded what's known as the Carnicom Institute, and folks can go and read the papers that he has published at carnicominstitute.org, and Carnicom is spelled C-A-R-N as in Nancy, ICOM as in Mary, carnicominstitute.org. Now, some may not be able to digest too much what he's published. He's a real scientist. He's a real molecular biologist looking at these things under a microscope and performing tests and running cultures, which is something that is not really being done in many other fields of research. There are many photographic and documentary attempts to observe and try to document the behavior of these random things growing on people. But Carnicom is a bit different, and he's been working with some very specialized equipment. It's taken a while to get his funding together so as to get the equipment and do the tests, but he's recently announced some very, very serious new revelations about this condition called Morgellons. And the first assertion is pretty much that it is directly associated with what most people call geoengineering. And that is synonymous with what others call the chemtrail program or the aerosol spray program. And loosely, that involves a bunch of covert aircraft. Many of them are from this place called Evergreen Air. There's one particular airbase called Pinal, Pinal, in a place called Marana, Marana, Arizona, that hosts a lot of these. It's understood to be sort of a CIA front. And basically these are giant 740, 757 planes. Used to be commercial, and they've been gutted. Most of the seats pulled out. And these giant banks of sprayer mechanisms and all these little tanks of components that are kind of, they look like kegs of beer on their side. Just rows and rows of them. I have a photograph of the inside of one of these sprayer planes. I've published it before. You can, go searching for it in labvirus.com. He further asserts, by way of, the other information regarding the research that he's been doing into this thing called Morgellons, that it's not really just a geoengineering program. And that whole phrase comes from an overall assumption that it's basically a aerosol spray program for weather modification, to be influenced by large-scale scalar weapon systems like HARP and so forth. HARP is an acronym for High Altitude Aural Resonance Project. And it's basically an outgrowth of some of Tesla's work in which, directed energy can be beamed through the ionosphere and focused and made, very targeted energy amounts at certain frequencies can cause very, very serious disruptions in molecular structures and matter of all sorts, as we've seen in these earthquake events such as Fukushima and so forth. But I sort of digress. So his first assertion that, it comes from these geo-bioengineering, he basically calls it both geo and bioengineering by way of these filaments, as he's mostly calling them. And they're nothing that are found in nature. They are much smaller than even the smallest of natural filaments. Basically, in the filament world in nature, folks, you've got filaments of hair being a couple hundred micron, 100 to 150 microns thick. The human hair made mostly of keratin. And then on down to one of the smallest fibers found in nature is that of asbestos, which is maybe 2 microns thick. Well, the thickness of these filaments, which are common in the Morgellons world, are sub-micron level. They are point something of a micron. They're really, really small. And a couple things that Carnicom unveiled in his most recent report that he's released on February 12th. And I'll read you up just the lead-in paragraph from a paper which has yet to be published, folks. But these new revelations are just astounding, and they confirm a lot of the suspicions that I had earlier. But they indicate that this is a much more serious health problem for everyone than was first originally understood. Most people have no idea that they have this condition. And I submit, and so does Carnicom and many other researchers on down the line, that everyone has this condition. We've all been breathing the air that's been contaminated by these aerosol bioengineering spray programs. Okay? Some of us are aware of it and have observed those telltale signs that indicate, yes, I too have it. But most have not, and as such are completely blind to the fact that they too have this condition, and the concern that everyone associated with this research program should be shared by everybody, because it is something that is potentially fatal, if not completely debilitating. Before I get to sort of the synopsis of what this next paper is going to be about, he underwent some serious analysis of what these microfilaments are. And anybody, if you don't think that you have Morgellons, here's the number one way that you can test. It's really easy. There's a couple number 2 and number 3 ways, but first of all, if you don't even know what Morgellons is, go take a look at some photographs at either morgellonsexposed.com, which that's Jan Smith's site, or morgellonsresearchgroup.com, and that's the site where one of my former guests, Dr. Will Spencer, contributes regularly. Learn a little bit about this, okay? But the number one way you can test anybody, I don't care who you are, your dog can test it this way, okay? If you're industrious enough. It takes a Petri dish. You got to have a Petri dish. Okay, and you know what a Petri dish is? It's something you grow cultures in. Basically, you throw something in, you seal it so it's airtight, and then you just throw it on a shelf and come back in a couple weeks and see what it looks like. It'll be different, okay? It's how you grow cultures of bacteria and other things that grow so that you can work on them and test them outside of the human body. That's the whole purpose of growing cultures, right? You've heard that phrase in your doctor's office, growing a culture. Okay, what you want to do is go get a hold of some red wine, okay? I don't know why, but it's red wine that really trips this thing off and causes it to really activate. Start with having a completely rinsed out mouth. Get yourself some Listerine or antiseptic mouth rinse and wash your mouth out real clean. Okay, then get a little swig of red wine and make sure your Petri dish is handy. And just put a little swig of red wine in your mouth, swish it around your mouth for a little bit, maybe 30 seconds. Spit it out into the Petri dish. Close the Petri dish. Put it on a shelf. It doesn't have to be in the sun or put it on the shelf in the shade, whatever. Come back to it in like a week or 2. Look at it under a microscope and observe your own filaments growing in cultures from stuff that was shed and produced by your gums as you swish that red wine around. The red wine, for some odd reason, really triggers the production of these little microfilaments. For many, many years, as of 12 years ago, Carnicom knew this. And this was one of the first things that he discovered by accident, was that cultures that he'd put in a petri dish and forgotten about, he was like, oh, what are these? And he just accidentally stumbled upon them and noticed that, oh, I put this away a month or so ago. Look at it now. It looks like it's got cotton growing in it. Whoa, that's weird. And so that sort of started the whole discovery process for him. He just stumbled into it, okay? But these fibers, as grown in the culture for the first time, he's announcing that, yeah, they are the same fibers that we have seen being produced by the gums in Morgellons subjects. And therefore, now we can begin to experiment on them in the culture form, as opposed to having to rely on freshly produced biopsy samples from the living human organism. This is a big one, because what this means is we don't have to experiment on humans to find out what infects Morgellons. We can experiment on the cultures without having to possibly hurt the humans in the process. This is a biggie. It took him a long time to be able to come out and say this with, absolute certainty. And in the world of science, you have to be able to prove this. So it for him, took him a lot of equipment and other things to be able to get this far. And I'm summarizing for you what you're going to see in this video. If you want, you can go and listen to yourself. Again, at labvirus.com, which is my blog, there's a button called Morgellons Chemtrails. And I just recently updated it, so if you go there, the very first link you'll see will be the link to this it's about an hour and a half, well, maybe an hour, 45-minute long presentation. It's basically sort of a conference call where Clifford Carnicom himself reveals these revelations for the first time, basically, to the public after 12 years of research. So it's been a long time coming. These may not sound like large revelations, but there's more. He's also begun to observe that most people are, without being told, as they go into like hospitals and get their temperatures checked with doctors and stuff, that there is a widespread trend for people to have lower body temperatures than normal. And you know what your body temperature is, folks. Everybody out there, you ask, what's your body temp supposed to be? And the immediate response, oh, it's 98.6. Everybody's supposed to be 98.6, right? So if you're not sick, if you don't have a fever, you're assuming your body temp is 98.6, right? Guess what, folks? Measurements that he's been coming up with, and I challenge anybody, and so does he, start recording your own body temperature in a healthy state, folks, with accurate thermometer equipment. And he's expressing that he's been documenting a very widespread occurrence of low body temperatures across the board for most people, and some as significantly low as 95, 96 degrees. Okay, so a couple degrees off. A lot of people may say, "Oh, that's not a biggie. That's not important." Well, he discusses it with another microbiologist, and he says in his presentation, and I'm paraphrasing here, but the one person that he spoke with, he was asking, what's the importance of 1 or 2 or even 3 degrees off on temperature for a human being, and what is it? How does it affect, the physiology, metabolism, biochemistry of a human being to be that far off from normal? And the response was, all biochemical reactions, and this was not subjective, what he said, all biochemical reactions are at specific temperature and pH. And the way Carnicom tells it is that basically was the aha moment. That floored him. Because now, to suggest that specific biochemical reactions cannot be occurring because the body temperature is off by as much as 3+ degrees. Well, this explains a lot of what he is moving forward in his statement, his opening synopsis statement with the paper that he has yet to release. And I'm going to qualify some of that in something that he expressed, something that he observed, and while attempting to break down this filament, because everybody's observing, okay, these sub-micron Morgellons filaments, okay, but under all forms of examination, even with electron microscopy, the only thing observable was the outer casing, this exterior casing of the filament, which was evidently hollow and protected an inner component as sort of a delivery mechanism. But no one had yet been able to break through this casing. This casing is some of the most inert material he'd ever come across, something impervious to flame or cold, chemical. Nothing he threw at it in the chemical world would break it down. And as an example, he said, sulfuric acid, you put human hair in it, it'll dissolve almost instantly. But this stuff, nothing happened. Only when he combined sodium hydroxide, which is basically lye, folks, lye, which is used to treat olives so that they're palatable instead of poisonous, and soap is made from it. Sodium hydroxide and potassium hydroxide, combining those two, which are some of the most caustic substances known to mankind, and exposing these filaments in that combination, even under heat, in a controlled, boiling water bath environment over an extended period of time, was he able to break these casings down and be able to observe what's inside these filaments. And it's startling, the behaviors of these components, their apparent they seem to have a life of their own, is the best way I can express it. I've stated long ago, I believe these things are artificially intelligent, and none of the behavior that he observes contradicts that observation in the slightest. But then he goes on to say, well, I've presented a couple new findings, and he goes through and he outlines them all. And again, folks, you can read all these papers for yourself at carnicominstitute.org. But then he reads the opening paragraph to his most recent paper, which is still under construction, and it's due to be published very soon. It will be titled Morgellons, A Working Hypothesis: Thyroid, Liver, Oxygen, Protein, and Iron Disruption. And he has a disclaimer saying he's not offering any medical advice or diagnosis, it's just research, okay. A body of evidence accumulated over a period of several years reveals that the Morgellons condition is likely characterized by a host of serious physiological and metabolic imbalances. These imbalances are caused by the disruption of a variety of major body processes, including, as a minimum, the regulation of metabolism by the thyroid, potential liver enlargement, a decrease of oxygen in the circulatory system, the utilization of amino acids. Okay, the degradation of the human health can be concluded to be serious and debilitating. Folks, go to carnicominstitute.org. Thanks for listening. I'll be back again tomorrow night with another edition of The Story Behind the Story. Until then, have a good one.